Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. We're a podcast about board games where we have opinions and conclusions formed on the basis of incomplete information. This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is brought to you by these great Saskatoon businesses: Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street, Dragon's Den Games on 8th Street, and Breakout Escape Rooms on Faithful Avenue. Welcome. I'm your host, Norm, and this is the Cardboard Conjecture podcast. And on this episode, some games of late, and it's reviews. And I'll be reviewing Three Sisters and Now or Never. Or Never. Or Never. Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street in Saskatoon. They are the winner of the Joe Shuster Award for Best Comic Book Store in Canada, and they were also nominated in 2016 for the U.S. Eisner Spirit of Comics Retailer Award presented at Comic-Con. Amazing Stories' amazing collection of comic books, board games, puzzles, and collectibles can be found in their store or on their new online website. And welcome back. This is Cardboard Conjecture, and let's get into some games of late. And I'm telling you, I had some fun with my games of late. You know what? I'm going to start with the one that is the most soul-filling game of late. And just recently had an opportunity that hasn't happened in a long time, and boy did I miss it. Got to play a game with Ryan from Mr. Rao Gaming Rants and Reviews, formerly of Cardboard Conjecture. And he came over. We had some Gamers Garage 2-player. And before I even tell you what game it is, I just want to remind everybody that I think, at least for me, the best part of this hobby is being able to sit across the table from somebody and have that experience. I mean, like we've talked to each other through Zoom and the whole ton, but it's not the same as being in the same room as the person, and you're playing the game and the dynamic, the synergy. It was awesome. So what we played, and before a little footnote to this, I lost badly, but I love this game, and that's just a testament to how good this game is. And yes, I'll get to it. The game is Gentes, or Gentes, and it's designed by Stefan Risthaus. I apologize if I said that incorrectly. And published by Spielworks. Yuli, you have awesome games. I have my fun little Spielworks collection in behind me here. But this is... I'll just quickly read the prompt to it, the headspace. In the first millennium BC, city-states and ethnic groups, sometimes spanning large areas, rose in the eastern Mediterranean. Yeah, a Euro game about the Mediterranean. Wow. Through conquest and commerce, new states, kingdoms, and peoples rose and had their respective heyday. So it is that civilization development Mediterranean Euro game. Like, we don't have enough of those, hey? But you know what? We don't have enough of the really good ones, and this is one of the really good ones. It's a card drafting. It's a Euro. There's so many elements to it in regards to the civilization building, and the first thing I'm going to say about it is it has so much depth and so many potential paths to success. And again, like I said, I didn't find any one of those paths. I was standing in the wheat field looking where the paths were. But the game is so fantastic in regards to the worker scale in front of you on your player tableau. Of course, you're going to have all these elements, but the one element that is necessary for this game is population, right? And not only population, but your different sections of population, your merchants, your agriculture, all of those dynamics in civilization building are implemented in a way that you have 6 different tracks, but you have you have 6 different elements, 3 different tracks. Because on opposite ends of the spectrum of each of these tracks, they go, from the right side, they'll move left. From the left side, they'll move right. And they represent the amount of population of a certain type. Let's say it's, workers or craftspeople, or it is politicians or governance. These will go from 1 to 6. And the importance of these is because it's a card-driven drafting game where you select cards and play them to your tableau. And the way that you can play these specific cards, let's say, shipyard. Well, you have to have certain elements and reverse engineer the ability to play this card. So there's a lot of planning. There's a lot, as we both use the term in the game, we kind of stare at the board for a while as we're trying to math out the path to what we wanted to accomplish and go, okay, before I get there, I got to do this. It's one of those games. If you like those types of games, this is it. I hadn't played it in about a year and brought it out because it was one of those, it's like, hey, we haven't played games in such a long time, didn't know what to play, so I brought a stack out. And this is one of those games where a couple plays, and then you'll get the knack of where the balance is to what cards are available to you and how these cards will affect the outcome of building into the area. And the cool part about this game is time, because each action will take time or resources, in this case money. And I don't want to go into a review, but this is such a fun game. Gentes, or as I said, Gentes, designed by, once again, Stefan Risthaus, and published by Spielworks. My other game is a game that I had my eye on for a while because I heard a lot of people talking about it, and of course the visual. The visual of this is just stunning. And I mean, I'll Canvas. That's the game. I'll spit it out. Canvas. Designed by Jeffrey Chin and Andrew Neger, illustrated by Luan Huynh, and graphic design by Jeffrey Chin. And this game is published by R2I Games. And it is... Canvas, it's about making art. You know what? Instead of just me freeforming it, I'll read the overview because they've done such a good job. You're a painter competing in a prestigious art festival. Over the course of the game, you will collect transparent art cards and layer them to create paintings. Depending on which cards you choose and the order in which you place them, you will reveal or cover icons that trigger various scoring conditions. We'll get to that. Each card combination creates a fun, unique illustration and title for your painting. When all players have completed 3 paintings, the game ends, and the player with the most points wins best in show. So it is that idea of those see-through kind of plastic cards, where Mystic Vale started that idea of card building, I guess. Element drafting card building or card creation. And that's what you're doing here is you have a market of these see-through acetate type cards, and each card will have a image element on it, and at the bottom you'll have from left to right color swatches that represent the symbols that you're going to try and collect, match, configure, right? As you're developing this painting, you're trying to match or potentially create a painting that, now again, here's the cool part, that corresponds to 4 of the variable scoring or contest element decisions. And just as an example, there could be a rule about variety, that in your painting you have to have a hue, So hue, shape, texture, tone. Those are the four, I would say, elements of composition to this painting. And those are like the set collecting things that we're looking at. And they're all different icons, right? So in variety, if your painting has one of each, then you get a ribbon. Repetition. If you have a pair of, let's say, a pair of shapes, and in this case, shape is represented by the icon of a triangle. If you have two triangles in your picture, you get a ribbon. And these ribbons or these categories are randomly placed in the red say that 5 times, red ribbon area, or the green ribbon, or the blue ribbon, or the purple ribbon. Now, there are gray ribbons that you can get, because on these cards there are also bonuses that will say, get a gray ribbon per texture icon that you have on this picture. And the gray ribbons are victory points, just straight up victory points, two, I believe. Yeah, 2 victory points at the end of the game. Now, when all these cards are all these 3 paintings are created, everybody will have sets of ribbons in front of them. That is the big scoring moment, because you'll go back to these categories of red ribbon, green ribbon, blue ribbon, purple ribbon, and look at the rule or the composition target or objective. And it'll say, like in the case of variety, it'll say, if you have 1 ribbon, it's worth 4 points. If you have collected 2 red ribbons through the course of your paintings, you have 8 points. If you've collected 3 red ribbons in the course of creating these 3 paintings, you collect 13. So those types of scoring conditions are in each composition objective, like repetition. Another one, it could be like emphasis and composition. There is a deck of these scoring options. So the variability is incredible. The variability also with creating these paintings, you have a really good deck of acetates. Now, I can't see, I'm going to say this just out of my knowledge and how much I play games, in more than 10 times or more than 6 times. I can't, if this was a game that the family loved all the time and played it a ton, then you would start being familiar with the cards and what works well with the other one. But I'm not a big card counter. I'm all about just in the moment kind of thing. So I totally appreciate what this game is and what it does. And again, without getting too deep and verbose about it, it is a low cognitive load kind of rule set game. There's 2 things you do. You either get acetates or you make a painting. That's it. If you have 5 acetates in your hand, you must make a painting. And there you go. But the pain, the decision-making pain is in the composition of this painting, and also looking at the market going, what's going to work with what I have? It's the same level of pain when I play Arboretum, when you have to play a card to, take 2 cards, play one to your tableau, discard one. That discarding moment, I just lock out, right? I just get stuck on, it's painful just to let this card go. The same thing, that decision-making space of, well, do I put this on top? But if I put this on top, I take away 1 element. I'm not going to score this ribbon. If I don't score it's basically the brain will just go into this framework of yes-no triggers all the way down to the moment where you realize, I haven't moved in 5 minutes. So bottom line, I'm having so much fun with this game. And the best part is I did my homework for this game because I thought my wife would really like this game. And her hobby is reading books. So for me to pull her away from her hobby to participate in my hobby, I best have something that she likes. And she likes it. Yay. Mikey will eat anything, right? If anyone who understood that reference, yeah, welcome to the older age people. This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Dragon's Den Games, located in the Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon. Swing by Dragon's Den Games and let Darren, Al, and the awesome staff help you out in search for great board games, role-playing games, miniature systems, and all of the related accessories. Be a part of their gaming communities that have scheduled events in their great gaming area. Dragon's Den Games, Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon. Hey there, welcome back. This is Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm, and let's check out what's trending. And looking at the BGG page, just as I was deciding what I would talk about in the trending range, this popped up, and my jaw hit the table because this snuck right past me. I was not aware of this at all. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about Gloom Holden, and it is referred to as a no table needed shrunk version of Gloomhaven. Okay, let me give you the description here. So, Gloom Holden is an 18-card, no table needed version of Gloomhaven. Yeah, wrap your brain around that for a while. It can be played completely in your hand, but I provide a way to play it on table as well. So, regarding spoilers, if you haven't played Gloomhaven, you won't be spoiled on much with Gloom Holden. You'll see the names and the art of the number of monsters and items from Gloomhaven, but that's about it. Gloom Holden has its own plot lines, so you won't be spoiled of any of Gloomhaven's campaign details. And that's when it says I want to say this is from the designer here. I want to say a huge thank you to Cephalofair Games for giving their blessing to post Gloom Holden for free download and for granting permission to use original Gloomhaven art, characters, lore, etc. Please be respectful of Cephalofair Games' generosity and only use Gloom Holden as a free print and play game for personal use. Gloom Holden assets are derivatives of Gloomhaven from Cephalofair Games. And then again, it just goes into the licensing. So the designer is not Isaac. The designer is Joe, I'm going to get this, Joe Klipfel. And there is no publisher. It's web published, and it's a free download. And wow, cool. And again, I think the trending thing is the fact that everyone's trying to figure out, how did you get the most massive table hog of a game? And granted, I'm not dissing Gloomhaven. I love Gloomhaven. But it's got a lot of bits and pieces. How in my brain is just like having a fall down moment. I'm trying to figure out how you get that into an 18-card game. Wow. Okay. And have somewhat of a storyline. I know what I'm doing this weekend. I'm going to do some print and play, even if I have to go buy a color printer. So yeah, that sounds so cool. Gloom Holden 2021, and as I said, designed by Joe Klipfel, and it is, as was mentioned, a huge thank you to Cephalofair Games for giving their blessing to post Gloom Holden for free download. So if you'd like to check that out, come over to BGG, and I will try my best to remember to put a link in the show notes, and I'm going to hold myself to that. So there you go. Yeah, that's what's trending. And I am so surprised by that. I just want to stop right now and go print it out. And I mean, it's got already has a very high community rating on it. So yeah, wow, color me curious. All right, Cardboard Curious. Hi. If you like the content we're creating and the podcast episodes we're producing, please leave a happy rating on the podcast platform that you use. This would be such a great gift and would also help others find our podcast when they search for board game podcasts. And if you have the time, check out our new YouTube channel where we have new content every few days. Just search Cardboard Conjecture on YouTube. Thanks, eh? Okay, well, let's check out what is new. All right, so on the new scene, which is kind of very contradictory from the prairies in Saskatchewan, because that newness will come in I don't know, maybe a year, 2. No, I'm joking. A little longer than that. I'm going to first of all say that this publishing company is on fire lately with all of the fantastic titles they're coming out with. And the publisher, Board and Dice, you are knocking it out lately. I'm so impressed. And so what's new, according to BGG, is Founders of Teotihuacan. I hope I said that properly. Establish yourself as one of the great founders of Teotihuacan. It is designed by Philip Glowacz. I'm sorry if I mispronounce it. I am so sorry. So let's get a quick description here. Travel back in time to the founding of one of the greatest cities of Mesoamerica and become a part of its history once again. Design the foundations of a great pre-Columbian civilization with its buildings, temples, and a grand pyramid in the center. Find perfect locations for production buildings and great temples and build the might of the great pyramid overlooking your city. Establish yourself as the very best among competing architects, and your project will secure you a spot among the great founders of Teotihuacan. That sounds like a great idea, a great setup. And so I'm just quickly looking at the mechanisms they're using so I can kind of interpret how they're going to try and accomplish this or fuse this together. And I'm seeing some action points, contracts, end of game. I like end of game bonuses because that. Now again, I don't know if the end of game bonuses are hidden or if they're public knowledge. That would be cool. Market that's always good because with the contracts, that's probably where you're pulling the market from. Tile placement. You're building your civilization. Turn order progressive. Anytime that I see a focus on turn order or initiative order, it's obvious that the importance of that contributes to the selections of things that are on the board. Awesome. And the last one, I know some people are going to cringe. Worker placement. I like worker placement, so I'm okay with that. This looks very cool. Now, we'll rewind a bit, and I have not played the original, right, or the main title, Teotihuacan. Of the T series, I've played Tzolk'in, and I adore Tzolk'in. I played it I was introduced to it with Gamer's Garage, and won the game, and I think it was a total fluke. And then I downloaded a solo version that I'm starting to kind of put together and work my way around and have some fun with that. And there is a version on Board Game Arena that I've played a few times, and I for some reason I grok this game. I mesh with it very fluidly. It's weird. This is color me curious again with the coloring, right? I'm very curious about this game. Nice. So the last thing we're going to do is have a look at some crowdfunding. Well, look at here, crowdfunding time, and it's closing soon. But understand that this will hit the shelves of your friendly local game store, but it might not last because I'm talking about Sleeping Gods: Distant Skies, the follow-up to Sleeping Gods, and this is designed by Ron Lockett, and he is the artist as well, and he is the publishing company, Red Raven Games. The Leonardo da Vinci of cardboard. It is the concept Sleeping Gods. I've not played it because, as I comically mentioned, it'll hit the shelves, but not for long, and I missed it. So I'm not going to say desperate. I'm super interested in playing Sleeping Gods. I'm going to review Now or Never, and the narrative or the groove that Red Raven Games is in with the Arzium world building and the trilogy they've created. Fine. And so I can only expect the same level of quality and narrative storytelling, creativity of Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies. I'll quickly read the big plug here. So San Francisco, 1937, your cargo plane flies through a portal in the sky, transporting you to a rugged landscape filled with bizarre creatures, scheming gods, and untold dangers. But can you find your way back before the portal closes? Good inflection, hey? I'm excited. And this one, quickly have a look at the mechanisms that they're going to try to make all this happen with. And action points. A lot of Red Raven Games has a lot of these different things, action point selection. There's a lot of choices in regards to what you can do on your turn. And that's a great feature that Red Raven Games has in their publishing the gaming design methodology. So deck and bag and pool building, narrative choice, of course, push your luck, and solo. Like me some solo. I'm not gonna say whether or not I've already clicked on that button. Yeah, I might have backed it. So we might be talking about this one in the near future. Hopefully, the world has settled down with the whole shipping Salvador Dalian explanation of costs. And there you go. That's what's on. That's the interesting thing that I want to mention on the crowdfunding scene. So there you go. Sleeping Gods, Distant Sky. This episode is supported by the incredible team at Breakout Escape and Board Game Lounge here in Saskatoon. Using industry-leading technology, Breakout Escape rooms are all 100% uniquely designed by the team to ensure their patrons have maximum fun while staying safe. As well, they are a fully licensed board game lounge with over 400 titles to select from to ensure fun for every gamer, new and experienced. Be sure to check them out at breakoutsask.com. At Breakout Escapes and Board Game Lounge, they believe that life is more fun when you play games. Hey, welcome back. It's time to get into the reviews, and I'm going to start off with Three Sisters, and let's get to the details of Three Sisters. So, Three Sisters is designed by Ben Pinchback and Matt Riddle, with illustrations by Marlies Behrens and Beth Sobel, and is published by Motor City Gameworks. It plays 1 to 4 players, and predictable game time, or somewhat predictable game time, is 30 to 60 minutes. There you go. There's the details of this game, and let's get into some nuts and bolts. And by nuts and bolts, I mean let's understand what the introduction of the game is in the overview, and then we'll get into more of the ideas of how you play and win this game. So, to introduce Three Sisters, I'm going to go to their wonderful rule book here, and I'll get to that one later. So, the garden plot in your backyard is tilled and ready. The days are getting longer and the weather warmer. Your kids have come home from camp eager to teach you a gardening method called companion planting. This technique has been practiced by indigenous peoples for centuries to grow a trio of crops known as the Three Sisters: corn, beans, and squash. The corn provides a lattice for the beans to climb. The beans transfer nitrogen from the air to the soil, and the squash creates a natural ground cover that reduces weeds and keeps pests away. Your backyard also includes perennials, an orchard, and even a beehive to pollinate it all. Fill your shed with tools and your garden with compost. Between managing your crops and taking occasional trips to the farmer's market, your summer is going to be packed with activity. Can you grow the best garden in town? And so, getting into the overview of what it is, in Three Sisters, you will select dice from the action rondelle in order to take actions in your backyard. The value of the dice determines where you can plant or water in your garden, and then the location of the die on the rondelle determines which other action you can take. As your crops grow to maturity, you will harvest them for goods and points, unlock bonuses from the tools in your shed, plan ahead for round-end events, and trigger delicious action combos in other parts of your backyard. After 8 rounds of hard work are completed, the end results will be compared to see who can boast the biggest harvest. And in this points, of course, biggest harvest means most victory points because, victory points are cool. So there you go. There is, there's the introduction and the overview of the nuts and bolts part. So the mechanisms, I'm going to quickly go through the mechanisms. And there's not much for the mechanisms. It's all about, how you interpret these mechanisms and how you score points to win. So the mechanisms, it's rolling dice, placing them on a rondelle, but so a rondelle, circular action track that is just continuous. And what's needed at times is to understand where the start point is of every selection choice. And in this case, it's a mechanism called Farmer Edith, a little meeple that once you've rolled your dice, you place your dice in ascending pip order around the rondelle. Then you take Farmer Edith and you place Farmer Edith at the tape, which is, the new head of this. Plop it there so that you now have a point of origin for the next round. Now you decide, okay, so once that action, that mechanical action has happened, now you come into the mechanical action of dice drafting. And with the dice drafting, as mentioned, there's 2 things to pay attention to. The pip value, because on your player board, I'm bouncing all over. Visualize with me. On your player board, you have left side, which is majority of your garden and perennials. And on your right side, you will have, on the top, you'll have your apiary, which is your beehive section. And then underneath, you'll have 4 tracts of orchards with apples, peaches, raspberries, blackberries. On the bottom of that, where you store your goods, you identify your goods and bonuses as you're tracking more and more goods. And then on the right hand of this right side sheet is probably the most, I would say, one of the more important aspects of this game because it'll help you decide your strategy of the game. And I'm talking about the shed. And in the shed, there will be not rule-breaking elements, but buffs for each area in your garden. And I mean each area, like specific perennials, but not just perennials, could be specific perennials in your perennial garden, or it could be specific fruits in your orchard, or as you see what I'm going with. So how this works, it's a roll and write. I don't think I spit that out at the beginning. It's a roll and write game. So you roll the dice, put them on the rondelle. Your first action is you pick whatever pip. So in your garden area, your garden is divided into 6 different areas. These areas are not the same, but they are same in the fact that they will have pumpkin, they will have corn, and they will have beans. But depending on the size of the area, like pip 1, pip 2, area 3, 4, 5, all the way to 6, some will have more corn, some will have less corn, some will have more pumpkins, some will have less pumpkins. Those are important because when you select that dice, you have 2 choices. First of all, it has to coincide with the pip location on your garden, but your compost can plus or minus that, right? That's where your compost kind of benefit comes in, where you get to mitigate that dice pip choice, okay? But backing up a bit. So you pick that dice, you have 2 things to do. You can either plant twice or you can water that area. Now, plant twice means starting these little tracts of these plants. So if, let's say you have 4 corn plants, well, I need to plant them. So on the bottom of this little mini corn tract, there'll be 3 squares and a circle at the top. Once I check off that circle off the top, that's where my victory points are happening. Anytime I see a circle on my player boards or player mats, typically the circles are demonstrate victory points for the end of the game. And typically I say, because sometimes it could be goods. Now, how does this work towards your, how do you win the game? You're trying to synergistically connect your choices with the garden growth, with the other gardens like your perennials, your apiary, your orchards, and your shed. You're trying to have those things all kind of find a synergy and an effect and a boost, or I use that buff, right? If you're going to go for the apiary approach, where the beehive, well, you got to start your beehive, and then at a certain point in the development of this hive, there's a branch of 3 different ways that you can go. Once you get to that branch, there's a lot of points to be had. At what cost, though, do you ignore planting in your garden? Because if you have a good garden, that garden, as the game goes on, could develop a lot of victory points. So there you go. That's the idea of winning the game, is try to find that organic growth towards victory points, towards these. I think, blue ribbons, like a good fair, blue ribbons for all of your successful harvests. Okay, so as we move on, let's go into some opinions. And we're done with the overview and the nuts and bolts of it. Let's talk about how I feel about this game. And I always like to start off with the outside-in approach. And outside in for me is, you always eat with your eyes, right? And I've used that phrase before. And Beth Sobel's art, to me, is delicious. Anything that you've seen that has this watercolory depth to it, wingspan. I'm looking around Cascadia. There's so many games out there where you see this beautiful organic depth to the art. And 9 times out of 10, it'll be Beth Sobel's. I've referred to her art in Wingspan as Audubon Society level, right? I mean, if you know what I'm talking about with the scientific books and the drawings of these animals, it's fantastic. So right away, boom, I'm in. Now, the fonts and the graphic design. This is a straightforward roll and write. So it's all about the pad. It's all about being able to see connections through the chaos. Sometimes people have difficulty visually organizing stuff, and I think they've done a great job at delineating how these areas are demonstrated on the 2-player board. So well done. There's enough space that it doesn't feel crowded, but there's lots of information, if that makes sense. Components. The dice are awesome. They have this pearl essence to it. Usually in the 1 pip side, that's where people like to do a lot of branding, and they have a nice pumpkin there. And they're orange. They're orange D6s. Now, this is in my head what I thought is like, well, if you really want to have a pumpkin, you should have tried a D12. But that would change the whole dynamic of the game because, wow, that's a big garden. Okay, so now I'm just kind of going off on a tangent. That's my thing. All right, so rule book. So the components are great. So the rule book, and on the rule book, it is fantastic. I mean, the first thing I'm going to recognize right away is being a teacher. I'm all about eye fatigue, and I've so far into my career now that the switch on in my brain about, man, this is going to be painful, or I don't want to read this because I could tell that by the 3rd page, you'll be blinking a bit. They did a great job on the foreground background separation, so there's relatively no eye fatigue. The font is a little small, but I will attribute that to my aging process. But the important elements are bold-faced, and there are fantastic graphics to help explain the rule sets and the progress of the game. So no arguments. Put it this way: you have to have a real bad rule book for me to trash your rule book, or even to poo-poo the rule book. So yeah, I'm happy. Total. Game system, game style. It is the second game in the trilogy that first started with Fleet the Dice game, and the development of this 2-player board, or this left-right player board, roll and write concept. I think they did a great job, and I think they didn't just slap a new theme on a mechanical idea they had from a previous game, but it does share the same DNA in a positive way. That the way the board is laid out, that if you've played Fleet the Dice game, you'll look at the perennials and go, that's kind of like the licenses. The shed, oh, that's kind of like the pier, the docks, or the businesses. So you'll see a lot of similarities in regards to the I was going to say the scaffold, or the engineering of the layout. Okay, if you have a great layout system in front of you, don't mess with it. You can modify it and you can expand on it, and that's what they did. They made the shed a little more influential into the game, differently than they did with Fleet the Dice game. What they completely radically changed is Fleet the Dice game, you'd roll the dice and you would just put them out in the market, and each person would pick a dice, and then the last one, everybody would get that action. In this case, with using the rondelle, man, I thought that was like wicked clever. So, and again, it gives you the ability to have a double dimension to your action choice. Previously, you pick a dice, it's one thing you're doing. This time, it's potential of 3 things you're doing, because your first one is seed or water, and then do the rondelle. So you have a lot of choices with a small decision space, if that makes sense. It makes sense to me. So I like that. I like that a lot. The unique mechanisms in this game. So I always like to at least pull on that string a little bit to see if there's something to me from a design point of view, or a methodology point of view, that is unique. And I think what to me is unique is to the trilogy is the implementation of the rondelle. I love rondelles. So the implementation of this rondelle to me was like, nice, that gives more depth. But I think what is unique to this game is the development, or the growth of seeing their player boards. I can't wait for the third game, which is I'm gonna fail on this title here. It's about the Motor City industry. I mean, from what I recall, there's a hot rod on the front, and they're from Detroit. So I mean, you put 2 and 2 together, you get vroom. So to me, the uniqueness is my expectation of what are you going to do next with this zone implementation of your two-page player tableau. So yeah, I'm super curious as to what's going to happen there. Does this all connect? It's a roll and write, right? There's no narrative storybook. There's no, there's no through line of a narrative. But I do understand the mechanical choices they made to connect with the thematic choices that you're doing on the board, or choosing in the game. It's agriculture, it's growing, it's organic. I love the fact that when you're checking off your boxes, it's the idea of you start from ground level and the boxes check upwards, right? In regards to your corn. The way that the beans are able to be accessed is you must start your corn first, because the beans grow up the corn stalk. So the beans can only be planted once your corn gets to the second checkbox. I think they've taken the time to have purpose to these cold choices of take this number, put it here. I think they made a great effort in regards to having a purposeful connection. So well done. I'm happy. Conclusions. Yeah, this is a great. The solo is fantastic. I've played this with a lot of people, and it is such a fun game because the principle. I mean, if you win, great. But it's one of those games where if you've played it a few times, you get to play around. I'm going to try this next. I'm going to try this next. I'm going to try that next. So for me, it's a game that it's, that idea of like, oh, I've solved it. And I'm not that kind of gamer. I'm not a big fan of those kind of gamers going, oh, we figured it out. It's like, really? Have you? Ooh, wow. Good for you. But I'm the kind of guy who is, I just want to go and pull buttons and push levers and or program something and then hit the on switch and watch what happens. This is one of those games because that cascading feature of, and I haven't even gotten to this one, that's the part, and that might be the uniqueness too that I like. Very similar to Fleet the Dice game is you can get into a situation where in your goods, every fifth good is a star. If you check that star off, that means that you have a bonus checkbox anywhere on your player tableaus, which then can start making, I check this off, which gets me to check this off, which gets me to check this off. And then I get to check these two things off. And then by the end of it, you want to just high five yourself because you're so brilliant. That's what I love about this game. It's just satisfying when you play it, even when you lose. And so as far as roll and writes go, love this game. Put it on a shelf, the roll and write shelf, top shelf. As far as like the entire collection, I would say it's on the middle shelf and looking upwards, trying to find which game it's going to bump off that top shelf because it's got some growing power. Haha, there you go. All right, now on to the second game of the review. It is, here's the details of it. Here's Now or Never, published in 2022, designed by Ryan Lockett, art by Ryan Lockett, and published by Red Raven Games. It plays 1 to 4 players. It is a suggested playing time of 90 to 180 minutes, and it is the third in the Arzium series, the first being Above and Below, the second Near and Far, and now the third, as I said, Now or Never. So let's talk about the overview and the nuts and bolts of it. I'm going to read straight from the publisher in regards to the description. So, far to the south of the last ruin lies a cliffside village called the Monument. For generations, it protected an ancient shrine until the day a crystal meteorite descended. The meteor's denizens slowly crept out into the world, bizarre monstrosities from nightmare, attacking all in their path. As they spread across the land, there was no intelligent malice nor grand invasion strategy. The creatures acted like a fungus, expanding into new territory sporadically. After many fruitless attempts to expel the monsters, the people of the Monument fled as their village crumbled, exiled to distant lands, resigned to a nomadic existence. 20 years later, there are rumors that the bizarre monsters are growing weak. They're slower, some undergoing a gradual petrification until they crumble to dust. It is something in the air? Are they dying of old age? Do they suffer from a strange disease? No one is certain, but as the news spreads, various factions set their eyes on the vacant ruined village of the Monument. The original villagers, now refugees, are desperate to return and rebuild. But they must do it quickly before someone else claims their home. This is their chance. It's now or never. Hey, that was pretty dramatic. Awesome. I am so bought into the narrative already. So, in Now or Never, you can either play solo or you can play up to 4 players. And you compete to rebuild an ancient village and guide the rest of the villagers on their journey home. And although the creatures of the meteorite have lost much of their strength, many of them remain, and you may fight them off to protect traveling villagers. which is one of the ways that you can bring villagers to your own area. Now or Never, like I said before, is the third in the Arzium series with Above and Below and Near and Far. And all are, I'm going to be bold here and say that all have a standard mode of play and a storybook mode of play. And this one is not going to change. It does have, and I'm going to talk mostly about the standard play because I've yet to delve deep into the story part of the play. So what you're doing is it's a competitive strategy thing, and you are able to choose asymmetric characters to start off with, which will in time develop their own strengths and their own I guess weaknesses, but as I get into the opinions of it, I'm going to have some really interesting thoughts about the tiles in there. So you rebuild the village so that returning villagers have a place to live. You carefully choose what and where you build to maintain an advantage, and it's all about gaining resources like all of these games from Above and Below all the way through. This resource exchange system is very compelling, and as I said, later I'll have some opinions. So you interact with others. You can hire or use their specialists, and as if someone was to use my specialist, I would not be put off too much because I would get a smaller fee, right? So that's you can make some advantageous money, but you then lose the ability to use that specialist in that turn. So again, I'll talk about that later. So you interact with players using the specialists, combat dangerous creatures to rescue the villagers. Those dangerous creatures will have benefits, but there's going to be some costs. And sometimes those costs are health, or the game, if you play like me. And also too, this is where the bridge or the Venn or the fraction happens between standard mode and story mode is when you go to explore and search. If you're in the storybook mode, this is where you have your choose your own adventure in regards to the script that's provided. Sorry, not necessarily the script, the architecture, the story, the narrative architecture that's provided. If you are in the standard mode, this will give you a coin resource generation because of your ability to get more knowledge through your search. And when you flip the tile over, you get a instantaneous benefit. So that's cool as well because that has this, like I said, this fractal function. I love it. The idea, journey to the monument and help rebuild your ancient home. The last thing before we get into opinions is the simple, straightforward idea of how do you make points? How do you win? Now, in the standard play, I'm only going to refer to the standard play, you create a synergistic system of resource generation at the end of each round in regards to the buildings that you put out and the villagers that populate those buildings. That will be when it comes to the resource generation part of the round. That's where you're going to go through and see, okay, I make 3 crystals, I make this much money, right? That engine that you're developing is necessary for your ability to succeed or get stronger in the game, and it also creates your last victory point. I would say end of game scoring. Why don't I just say end of game scoring? Because this is the cool thing, and it's not unique, but it's kind of interesting. Is at the last round, if you go through the situation, and at the last round, if you haven't used all your money or all your resources, they go to 0 because then you do one last resource generation and then sell your resources for gold, and the gold is points, and that's one of the main ways that you create your points. And like a good Euro, there's going to be points for set collection in your villagers. Now visualize in the opinions, I'll get deeper in it, but visualize on your tableau that you'll have you'll have a rank and file grid kind of thing, like a four, I think it's a 4x5 or 4x4. And 4 on the bottom and the next level above that and the next level above that. That's where you put your buildings. To the right of it is that each building can have a villager. And if you have, on your first level, if you have 4 villagers and each of them produce different 4 of the different resources or one of each of the 4 different resources, you get 5 victory points. On the second level of buildings, if you complete that level, like a good Euro, you've finished that set, you get victory points. And as you keep going higher and higher, you will get more victory points. So that's one way of getting victory points. Another way is your cards. There's end of game scoring conditions on your cards as well. And the cards themselves will have victory points on them. And one of the last ones that I haven't mentioned yet is the buildings in your civilization community that your little village you're building. Some of the buildings will have end of game point scenarios that will generate some points. So that's basically the most points wins. Good Euro, VP. So that's how you get points and win. Now let's get to some opinions. Okay, so always like to start off with that outside in idea. And what can I say? First of all, the box dimension, physical, is your typical Ticket to Ride size, a 12-inch by about 3-inch. So that's the physical dimensions of it. Let's get to the aesthetic dimensions of it. And wow, do I love me some Ryan Lockett art. I distinctly remember the first time that the art caught my interest before the game description or recommendation caught my interest was Islebound. When I saw the swatches of color art, the style, the palette, immediately connected with me. And again, art is subjective, right? But my subjectivity on this was it was gorgeous, and it continues to be gorgeous. The world building that he's created artistically, with the characters, with the environments, with the backgrounds, with the choice of art style, fantastic. Absolutely love it. I have other games that are outside of this series that you can see the similarities because, like a good artist, there's a DNA that you can recognize, but they're distinctly different. The Arzium series has its own look within his look. So boom, right away, I get this idea. And I love the concept of the silhouetted characters because that's the idea of the any person villager that is, and again, there's choices made. They're descending down a slope, meaning that they're going back to somewhere. At least that's what I see. And with knowing the narrative in the background, there is mountains smoking, and so I can't get enough of the art. The cards are gorgeous. Everything that has artistic input on it is well done, absolutely well done. So let's move on to. After we get to that is the components. And the components are the standard that Red Raven is famous for, and it's quality. The wooden components are of quality. The cardboard chits, everything is of a thicker, lasting, textural. There's some ASMR involved with sometimes with some flicking cards or tactileness of the game, and everything is of quality. So there's no complaints there. The rule book, as I said before in Three Sisters, you have to have a real bad rule book for me to get poo-poo on it, but not the case here. There's great distinction of background, foreground, the incorporation of boxes to bring in ideas of, let's say, player turns or actions or concepts of buildings. A very good job has been done to subtly move your eye from location to location on the page. Well done. The good examples, like the examples that are there, are for a reason, because most likely through playtesting, that's where the questions arose and demonstrated a need for a visual and a textual explanation. The art in not the art, but the illustrations. One of my complaints sometimes is, and again, that's a user thing, old eyes, right? But when they choose to demonstrate or explain or review a graphic or a card, the areas of the card, it is expanded, it's enlarged. Thank you, right? I mean, you don't need to like push your nose in to go, oh, that's what that is, right? Well done. So quickly moving on to game system, game style. It is, I'll run through the mechanical natures in this game. So you have the drafting elements of your specialists, and to somewhat nature of the cards, kind of taking them off the deck, because you get to take two, take three, keep one, take two, keep one, kind of thing. Hand management. You have to decide what quests that you're going to do, which ones are of value, which ones have precedence. You have, again, if you're following the story, there's going to be narrative choices, which I can't wait to go experience that. And maybe I'll do a little update when it comes to me finishing that storyline. I'm going to, full of spoilers, right? Because it'll be ages. No, I'm joking. But as far as the ability to turn that into a search token, which contributes to your resources, brilliant. Solo, and that's what I've been playing. I haven't had an opportunity to play this with other players, so the solo is worthwhile. All right, I mean, it does a good job to attempt to replicate the chaos of other players, and I say chaos lovingly. Tile placement. You have first of all tile drafting or tile selection in your builder's market, and then you have tile placement in your village building. And I'll get to a little deeper to that in regards to, well, you know what? No, I'm going to talk about that as far as the uniqueness, because I thought I like that. And then variable player powers. You can start out with 4 different types of races of players, but there is also the ability to choose or upgrade your weapons, because you're going to attack monsters. So you want to get into a fight with a big stick. So you have the ability to asymmetrically. You have the ability to make more distinctions in regards to the attack nature of your player. And on the right hand side of the opposing side of the gear is the ability to buff up your movement and buff up your defense, because in a battle, and I'll quickly describe the conflicts, because the other concepts of this is in the action selection, you have 3 different movement rates. You have 2, 3, and 4. And in your turn, that's what you have options to, is I get to move somewhere. And then when I move somewhere, I can either choose to do the action on that space, or I can search, or I can have a fight. And that is that action area. All of that happens because of those 3 movement choices. Once those are exhausted, your turn's not necessarily over, because you now have the ability to tap your specialists. And your specialists can either heal you up, or they build buildings, or they give you more experience, or they add to some of your resource tracking. So there is always something to interpret and add to the formula of what you're trying to accomplish in the success of this game. So the game, that game system and style, if you're familiar with Above and Below and Near and Far, this will be familiar to you as well. There's some different nuances to it, obviously, but that's pretty much the game system, game style. is that those choices. Now, let me quickly talk about the unique mechanism. And I think what I want to talk about for the uniqueness is because I haven't seen this in, I'm racking my brain. I haven't seen this in any other games. It's a village building game, right? But everybody will have the same, the access to the same building types, much like Great Western Trail. Everyone has the same tableau of buildings that they can purchase, right? Available to them, and then they put it on the board. In this case, when you lay out that grid, like in Great Western Trail, I just put them, chronologically from lowest to highest in regards to the tiles, right? The tiles are numbered. These tiles aren't numbered. These tiles, you shuffle them, and then you lay them out in a 5x4 grid. And here's the cool, unique thing to it is that once that grid's there, you can't move the buildings in regards to the orientations and rank and file of that grid pattern, because the first time that you build, you have to build from the outside. Okay, so when you start, you can pretty much choose any tile to build. But once you pick a tile, right? Once you build that first tile, that negative space indentation, all the orthogonal sides that are connected to that opening that you've created by this tile selection, those are your choices. So imagine this kind of negative space snake that pushes its way through that market grid. Those are the accessible tiles for you to build. So there could be certain tiles where I need to generate crystals, but that building is in the middle. How do I get to it? Some buildings are low cost because they don't do much. Some buildings are high cost because they're very powerful buildings. You have to, before you even start building, you have to try and visualize pathways to, okay, where's the line of cheap buildings that can get me extra buildings? Because once you get those buildings, I've referred to it before in regards to your player tableau, that you now have a grid that has to start from the bottom and work its way up, orthogonally connected. Some spaces, when you build on it, will give you a bonus. Some spaces, when you build on it, will give you an added tax of coins because money's tight in this game. So that's, to me, that is the cool, unique part is not just building, but how you manage that building system. Does this all connect? I don't know. I've never, as far as the sci-fi concept of this theme game, I don't know. I don't have a book to reference it to, but does it all connect for me following a narrative story? Yeah. I mean, the standard play, what I'm getting out of the standard play is understanding the mechanical nature of this game and how it functions, because I have one kind of to talk about. And again, it's not really it's just, it's on half on me, right? But half on, okay, but I'll get to that later. You know what? Let's get to that now. I think what the only thing that just makes my eye kind of fatigue a little bit is the nature of the crescendo. When you get to because it goes over a certain amount of seasons, I believe it's like 7 seasons, I want to say. And when you get to that last season or those last 2 seasons, you have so many things going on your board and your bonuses and your extra this and I get an extra that, that it could be critical to the success of your game. And let me give you an example, because I had committed a game to video. And if you want to have a watch, I have a Let's Play Now or Never on the Cardboard Conjecture YouTube channel. And when I watched it, there was a moment in the game where I'm thinking, it's coming down to this dice roll, this fight against this creature. I need to, destroy the creature in order to get the benefit, which was the villagers, to create this resource cascade for me. And I had in my gear a type of helm that gave me a buff to my defense, But if I had rolled a 4 on the D4, and I'll quickly talk about that, if I rolled a 4 on the D4, it would add 1 to my health. I forgot twice. And I'm watching my health drop, and then it comes down to this dramatic moment in the video where now I'm like, well, it's not dramatic because I goofed and I forgot to add extra, there's extra health. That's my only negative, I would say, is that there's a lot of things to track, but maybe half of that's on me, and, there could be a lot of gamer error there too, right? Or, just brain fatigue, or just don't play a game late at night that requires this much attention. I don't know, but I'll take some shade for that one. But for me, yeah, that was one of those things that now the next time when I play this game, I need to slow down and go through my checklist before I commit to the action being over. Okay. Now that being said, this does connect. And I hope that when I get to the storyboard part, that it is as narratively fulfilling as was the 2 preceding games. So yeah, my conclusion for this one though, if you have played those other ones, yeah, you're going to want to play this one. I mean, completionists, yeah. If you have never played a Red Raven game and you step into this one, you'll have a great experience. The game has great ability to mitigate some choices, and even in regards to your movement. If you're like, oh, I can't get there, well, you can take a hit point because you have a range of health, and I call them hit points, but they're hearts. But you can commit hearts to mitigate the distance of a journey, or you can, the hearts will also be required in your journey. If you go through mountainous terrain, you have to take a hit point because of thematic exhaustion. If you travel through, and you can travel through an area that has a monster, and without having to, it's like typically some games will say, if you travel into a zone with a monster, you can't leave, right? This one you can go through, but it'll cost you a hit point. So if you enjoy that kind of, managing, mitigating, looking at, choices and quests and how that will potentially help your, the growth of the race that you've created. This will be a very cool game for you. If you love the narrative, and again, I can't talk about the narrative of this game, but I can talk about the narrative that is famous of Red Raven. This is they produce such great choose your own adventure games that you'll absolutely have fun. I'm kind of like not gushing about this game. I'm trying to be reserved. I enjoy Red Raven games, so yes, I'm going to definitely enjoy this game. Will it get to see a lot of time on the table? The storybook version will tell the tale, I guess, if you want to pardon the pun. As far as where this is sitting on the shelf, this is going to sit in the middle. This is a middle shelf game. Again, it comes down to, at this point, how compelling is that story, right? I also do want to try this with other players to see how the game, interaction changes. So yeah, I'm going to stick with the middle shelf, and be happy with that. I'm happy with the game. I'm quite enjoy every play that I've had of it. And so there you go. Red Raven Games, their third in the Arzium series, Now or Never, art by Ryan Lockett and produced by, designed by Ryan Lockett and produced by, as I said, Red Raven Games. We are now at the point of the program where I say thank you so much to everybody who took the time to listen. And with that being said, I'm your host, Norm, and we'll catch you later. This has been an episode of Cardboard Conjecture, and you can find more about the podcast on Twitter at BCboardgamers, and you can find the podcast on YouTube by searching Cardboard Conjecture, and on Board Game Geek, Guild number 4045. If you wish to contact the podcast, you can email norm@cardboardconjecture.com. Thanks, eh?